So how do arthropods carry out these 7 essential functions, which we've been talking about with each of the different phyla of animals that we've covered? Well, arthropods do vary a lot within the phylum, as you've seen in other phylums as well. But some of the things that they're all going to share, which we've already talked about, are going to be those jointed appendages, that exoskeleton, and that segmented body. So in terms of where their brain is located in the dorsal part of the head, and then they're going to have a ventral nerve cord, which means it's going to run along the base of their belly, so like along their stomach. And then they're going to have an open circulatory system, which is powered by a single heart. We'll talk more about each of these things. So their digestive system, how do they do digestion? They actually have a complete digestive tract from mouth to anus. So they will eat food that will come in through their mouth, they will digest it in their stomach, absorb it in their intestines, and then any waste products will exit out through the anus. Many of the arthropods will actually have specialized mouth parts in order to allow them to feed. So it just depends on what kind of feeder they are. That will actually, if you look at their mouth parts, you can actually tell a lot about what kind of feeding they will be doing. So you will have all sorts of different kinds of feeders, like predators, filter feeders, parasites, scavengers, herbivores, etc. The respiratory system, they are going to have gills. So those are going to be feathery structures inside of their body, and those gills are going to facilitate oxygen and carbon dioxide diffusion so that they can get the oxygen that they need and then get rid of the carbon dioxide as the waste product. The circulatory system, so the gills will bring the oxygen in, and then the circulatory system will pump that oxygen throughout the body to make sure that each of the cells of the arthropod is getting the oxygen that they need. So they're going to have an open circulatory system where the blood will not be contained in vessels. So they're going to have a heart. It's going to pump blood through arteries, which will then open up into spaces that are called sinuses, where the organs are, and then the blood will just bathe the organs in, the organs will be bathed in blood, and oxygen and carbon dioxide will be exchanged, and then they're gathered up, and the blood is gathered up and pumped back to the heart and to the gills to get rid of that carbon dioxide and pick up more oxygen. The excretory system, so how do they get rid of metabolic waste? They're going to have the gills, or the green gland, in order to get rid of metabolic waste. So the gills can get rid of some types of waste, and then the green gland will get rid of other types of waste. And those are located at the base of the antenna. The nervous system, so all arthropods are going to have a brain that's going to consist of a pair of ganglia, which are gatherings of nerve cell bodies. You're going to have a ventral nerve cord that runs down the belly of the animal, and then they're actually also going to have ganglia along the nerve cord to help to control their walking legs and other parts of their bodies. They also may have many other types of sense organs, so they'll have eyes, antenna, statocysts to help them tell what's up and what's down, a tympanic membrane to help them hear, and even chemoreceptors, particularly on their antenna, to help them to taste and find their food. So they're going to have lots of sense organs that will be included in that nervous system as well. Their musculoskeletal system, so how do they move? They're going to have an exoskeleton, which is a skeleton located on the outside of the body. And then they have muscles that are attached to that exoskeleton. So, and then the muscles pull on the exoskeleton, and the crustacean is able to move. The problem is, because the skeleton is located on the outside of the body, there's only movement allowed at the joints of the exoskeleton, because the rest of it is hard and tough. So you will only get movement allowed at the joints. So the concept is pretty much the same as your own skeleton, except for you have an endoskeleton, which means that your skeleton is located on the inside of your body, and then your muscles attached to your bones. And when your muscles pull on your bones, it causes movement at the joints. So it's the same concept, except for in crustaceans and arthropods, the skeleton is on the outside. Because the skeleton's on the outside, these animals need to molt or undergo this process called molting to help them grow because their skeleton won't expand. It's hard and rigid. So they have to grow a new exoskeleton underneath the old one, crack the old exoskeleton, crawl out, inflate their new one, and wait for the new one to harden. So that's how they move, with their muscles and their exoskeleton. Reproductive system, they're going to have separate sexes. They typically do internal fertilization, so the male will pass the sperm to the female. And many arthropods will undergo this process called metamorphosis. So there's two types of metamorphosis. You have incomplete and complete metamorphosis. Incomplete metamorphosis is when the babies hatch from the egg and they look exactly like miniature adults. And then basically all they do is they increase in size as they get older, but they don't really change their overall form or shape. So an example of this would be a grasshopper. Complete metamorphosis is when eggs hatch into larvae, and so that's going to be like immature stages that don't look like adults. And then as the larvae grow, they change shape dramatically. So your typical example would be like a butterfly. Starts as a caterpillar and then metamorphosizes into a butterfly. We also have bees and wasps, and a lot of aquatic arthropods as well will do this. So that's how they carry out the 7 essential functions. Crustaceans and arthropods are going to be ecologically important because they are a very important food source for many different types of animals that live in the ocean. In fact, copepods are the second step in many of the ocean food chains, so they're very, very important. They're also involved in a lot of different mutualistic relationships. So you have cleaner shrimp that are going to remove dead skin and parasites from all sorts of different kinds of animals on reefs, and then they're also going to get a meal. So they're involved in a mutualistic relationship. They can also be part of what's called a fouling community. So that's an organism that grows in places where we wish that they wouldn't grow, and then that's going to cause problems. So you get barnacles that grow on boats, and that's going to increase the drag and slow down the boats so that the boats have to use more fuel to go where they need to go. And then removing those barnacles is going to cost a lot of time and money, so it's very, very inconvenient, and we wish that we wouldn't get barnacles growing on the bottom of boats. Just for your information, if you want to look up a really cool type of arthropod that's incredibly fascinating, you should look up the mantis shrimp. The mantis shrimp, it's crazy. That's all I'm going to say. You should look it up and learn a little bit about it.